NASCAR is headed back to two iconic tracks in 2024. While there still isn't a 2024 schedule out for any of NASCAR's top three series, we do know that based on what was announced on Thursday, where two of their races will be held at. The All-Star Race returns to North Wilkesboro Speedway for a second consecutive year in May, right before the Coke 600, and the Brickyard 400 makes its triumphant return after 3 years on the Indianapolis road course, which will happen on July 21st. So let's talk about that first. The Brickyard 400 is back on its 30th anniversary. Obviously, Jeff Gordon won it 30 years ago. Well, in 2024, 30 years ago. We'll see who's the next winner at the famed Oval. They ran 3 races on the road course, 2 of which were absolute disasters, marred by really bad driving, the track coming up, and everybody just kind of genuinely leaving annoyed at every other driver on track. Harrison Burton even got a top 5 one of those seasons. Absurd. Regardless, after this past year's race on the road course, which was a bit of a dud and had everybody, wanting stage cautions to come back, which is kind of the reason why they are, NASCAR and IMS decided that it might be worth moving the race back to the Oval in 2024. And obviously that's what they decided to do. There was a 2-day tire test that was held there. Apparently that went well. They decided to move back. The Gen 7 car has never raced on the Oval before, and I think it's worth a trial to have this race on the Oval to see what it can do. A bit of a concern that I think I have and everybody else has is the fact that IMS is a single-lane racetrack, and the Gen 7 car hasn't exactly performed well on racetracks that are single-lane. Having said that, who knows what this race is going to be, and who knows how the package is actually going to be set up going into 2024. It's probably going to be a lot like the Speedway package is now, but it still is worth a try because what we saw on the road course wasn't that great. This car, the Gen 7 car, was designed for road courses, and it does race really well on a road course. The problem is, everybody else is racing really well, and passing is at an absolute premium, and unless you're really into the strategy, some fans, myself included, are, not everybody is, and it makes for a pretty boring show if that's what you're not tuning in for. So, the idea to move back to the Oval is to get rid of that Indianapolis Roval in a sense, and let's move back over and see what kind of show they can put on here. The Xfinity Series will join the Cup Series at IMS on that July 21st weekend. 20th will be the Xfinity Series, 21st will be the Cup Series. Likely to just go ahead and assume that the Truck Series will be at IRP on that 19th, that Friday night before the Xfinity race and the Cup race. Regardless, though, it's definitely worth a try. And whether or not it's a good try, we're about to find out next season. And NASCAR and Goodyear just have to hope that it's not a repeat of 2008, while NASCAR also kind of hopes that some of that chaos from 2017 is maybe sprinkled into this to really spice up the event, right? It's the return. It's the 30th anniversary. You want something big to happen. You don't want, a Martin Truex Jr. or Kyle Busch or Kevin Harvick going out there and absolutely dominating this race and putting everybody to sleep, which has happened in years past. Putting this race in July, though, too, is a bit of a wild move. Indiana in July is not known for its cool temperatures. It's going to be very hot. It's likely going to be very humid. Not the most ideal time to sit outside in Indiana. Having said that, if you're looking to get tickets, maybe, look towards turn 1 and try to sit underneath the penthouse. Or if you got money like that, sit up in the penthouse. I can't imagine that they're going to sell 250,000 tickets to this event, but I think there will be a decent amount of interest in seeing the Cup Series go back to the Oval, right? Especially with it being the 30th anniversary of the Brickyard 400. Whether or not you're going to get more cars than the 36 charter cars to show up, one thing I can guarantee you is 86 cars are not going to show up like they did in 1994 to try to make this race. There's not even 84 next-gen chassis out there to be had by all the various different organizations that would maybe potentially want to enter an extra car. So, don't think that that's going to happen, but it should still be a decent event. And if nothing else, just sort of the entire atmosphere around the event will be pretty cool to see. The Xfinity Series joins them. Kind of wish they were over at IRP with the Truck Series, but beggars can't be choosers, right? Also announced on Thursday was that the All-Star Race will be going back to North Wilkesboro Speedway in 2024, taking over that May 19th date, the week before Memorial Day and the Coca-Cola 600. Everybody knew that they were going back to North Wilkesboro. The question was whether it was going to be a points race or back to the All-Star race. We know now that it's going to be the All-Star race. The Truck Series will race on Saturday before the Cup race. The Cup race will be on Sunday once again. It will also have the late models and the Cars Tour on Tuesday and Wednesday of the week leading up to that event. The track will also be repaved before these events. And I think that's maybe the biggest concerning part here. Obviously, we all knew that track was going to have to be repaved. It started to come apart. They said it was going to be repaved. But now having the All-Star race there before you have a points race there makes a lot of sense. And it all kind of depends on what sort of asphalt they put down. If they put down the same asphalt they put down at Atlanta, which is pretty porous and appears to weather rather well, it should put on for a pretty decent show within the next couple of years. If they put down what they put down in Charlotte, that's going to be a whole different question here. But having the All-Star race back in North Wilkesboro makes a lot of sense. It's now one of those little jewels of the SMI portfolio. It has a ton of interest around it. People want to go there. It's a bit of a pilgrimage. They're also building a pedestrian bridge across the highway, which is really beneficial. So they're working on capital improvements down there as well. Having the repave, though, is a bit concerning, especially if it's just bottom lane dominant once again. But it was going to have to be repaved at some point. So getting it done now rather than waiting into the future was definitely the right move there. The Xfinity Series still won't make a trip down to North Wilkesboro. I think everybody thinks that they should, right? They should have a standalone event in the fall. Kind of like how Kentucky used to have a standalone event on the Xfinity schedule. Make that North Wilkesboro. It can be its own little mini event, and the Xfinity cars would probably put on a really good show there. So regardless, NASCAR's headed back to two iconic venues, one that they were previously racing at just on the road course. Now they're going back to the Oval for the Brickyard 400, and North Wilkesboro continues to live on. We'll see what happens in the future. I think they want a points paying date at some point. Everybody kind of mentioned, and I think myself included, that it maybe possibly could end up on that Easter Sunday night. You know, the more you think about it, the more it's like, it just doesn't really gel with sort of the Southeastern culture to have that event on Easter Sunday night, especially in that part of North Carolina. Regardless, though, the All-Star race is back there for another year, which kind of beats out some of the other rumors that, or places it has been. At least it's not going back to Texas, right? We also heard that maybe Atlanta was in the running for the All-Star race, which would have been a really weird All-Star race to see a drafting track have it. But regardless, going back to North Wilkesboro next season. So let me know in the comments if you like both of these moves. Like and subscribe to the channel. Follow me on TikTok at Brickyard, Instagram and Twitter at BrickyardBlog.